I think most people know I'm Stephen Balogh, member of the Pastoral Council, and helping to run the fledgling, but actually already rapidly taking off social committees. So I'd like to speak about two things very briefly today. One is the Synodal Pathway, which isn't in the past. It is still very much in the present and in the future. So I'll just mention some of the things that have been happening there, and then mention some of the about the social life of the parish. So first of all, the Synodal Pathway, the Synodal journey, that if you remember, the Pope launched something like 15 or 16 months ago in autumn 2021. Many of you here will have taken part in the listening sessions that we had. We had 150 people participate actively in the Synodal listening sessions that we held in December and January, roughly the Christmas before last. And out of that came a very rich set of information, things that people had said to us during these respectful listening sessions, expressed in a way that maybe in other circumstances they may not have been able to express. So it was a wonderfully refreshing set of information we had, and some themes emerged. What we did, like every parish in the diocese and in the world, in fact, we drew up a report. We sent it to the local, to the centre of the diocese. And what's been happening since then, some of us here will be keeping up through the Catholic press and so on. It's gone through a series of sort of roll-ups, first at diocesan level, and then at Bishops' Conference level, and eventually at continental level, which is where it's reached now. Each time, the essence of these reports going up has been taken and interpreted and mulled over. And where it is at the moment in this so-called continental stage is, I think 3 or 4 months ago, there was a meeting in Frascati where a number of representatives, lay as well as clerical, across many different walks of life, there was a document that was produced called the Document of the Continental Stage, which is available on the diocesan website, the Vatican website, in English language for anyone to have a look at. And that is, as it were, come back down to the individual local churches to continue mulling over while the church prepares for the first of 2 synods, councils of the church, as it were, in a certain way of looking at it, in autumn this year and then autumn 2024. So there's a process going on at the universal level, which I've just described. Question is, what do we do? What are we doing at our local level here? Well, so the diocesan team, which I've had a little involvement in being on a working group, has produced various resources that are available for parishes to use in sort of study series form. We decided not to pursue that here because there's simply so much going on. But what we have continued doing is keeping track of all of the goings on. I think what actually we've also been doing here is naturally adopting a synodal form of listening, a greater openness to each other in our encounters in everyday life, which I think that the little synodal journey listening sessions may have helped set off, set some good habits of listening before talking and wanting to assimilate things that others maybe with a different perspective will have had. And I really encourage us all to continue doing that. It's a very healthy way of acting in community. There's a lot of controversy, of course, about the way the synodal journey is unfolding. And there are some, different perspectives that are voiced quite strongly. I would very strongly advocate listening to a debate which was held online 2 weeks ago, which I think is now available for playback by the Catholic Union. And it was a debate with 4 very, very well-informed individuals, some of whom have had a direct part in some of this process and others sitting on the sidelines. And I'm going to suggest that in next week's bulletin, I just have a 2-liner which has that link in it, because there were very different perspectives, but a very good sense of finding common ground and finding positive things about the way the process was unfolding. But anyway, moving on from there and linking that into the social life of the parish. So the synodal listening sessions acknowledged a number of good things about the parish: its liturgy, the presence of the monastic community, sense of the presence of God in the Abbey Church, the catechetical work, the pastoral work, I should say, including with parish groups. But one thing that was really noted by its absence largely was the social life of the parish. Of course, that's not a disconnected thing. It should be integral to the life of the parish community. Those who've already been to Mass today will have heard the Cardinal's letter, which mentioned 3 things to think about during Lent, and one of them was building up community. If those who haven't heard the letter yet read out, maybe for the 7 p.m, do listen to it. I thought it was an excellent call for us during Lent. So, the social life of the parish, the sense of community. Social committee is up and running. There are 8 of us. Some of us are present here who are committed to. What are we committed to? We're not just committed to a good time. That's not all the social committee's there for, although we did have a good time whenever we meet, whether over a glass of wine or not. We are here to support the flourishing of the parish community in its life of faith, both inwards looking, so to nourish those who are here, but to reach out to the wider community in Ealing around us, as has been talked about so often already. So the 4 events we've run so far are quite illustrative. The first one was in November, and that was after Solemn Vespers at the beginning of Advent. So it was linked to a liturgy. We really want some of these social events to be linked to a liturgy, to have a social afterwards as a gathering, to reflect on the liturgical event that we've just been part of. A couple of drop-in sessions, so coffee lounges on a Sunday morning in December during Advent, and then again in January at Epiphany, wasn't it? And then the Ceilidh. Many of us attended the Ceilidh a couple of weeks ago. This hall was absolutely full and bustling with the sound of music, and generations from 2 years old to 85 or 90 dancing together and having a good time. It was an absolute delight to see how the parish has mobilized around this event. So different sorts of event, and really importantly, to all of those events, I think just about all of those events, people have invited outsiders, either maybe returnees to the parish who walked away for whatever reason over the last decade or 2 and who want to sense something different and find a way back in. And also original inquirers, that is to say, people who may not have been living a life of faith and are just attracted by a sense of presence here. So it's not just, as I say, about having a good time, it's about doing it with purpose to build community. So we're not resting on our laurels. Next month, we'll be helping celebrate the Feast of St. Patrick on Friday the 17th with a social in conjunction with the Bennett Bar. Crucially, the Bennett Bar is open, and Johnny is a fabulous host behind the bar. We're working very closely with him on collaborations. So that will be St. Patrick's. Live music, possibly singing with it and possibly dancing as well. And we're trying to work out the exact format of that. We'll know in about a week or so's time when we've hammered out the details. A quiz night just after Easter begins. Another 1 or 2 other liturgically based events, possibly the Pentecost Vigil on the Saturday of Pentecost, to build that up further, and then possibly at the beginning of July around the Feast of St. Benedict, Patron of Europe, to have a parish-wide event, possibly in conjunction with relaunching the Labyrinth, which is in the grounds of Overton. So even broadening it out beyond inside these walls, and always being open as a parish. And there's Golf Day in September. We're thinking of another Ceilidh at some point, and I want to say the sky's the limit. So I'll stop there. During the break, please ask me or another member of the social committee any questions, and come to us with your ideas, suggestions, and voluntary time and help as well. Thank you so much.